Hi everyone, spoilers ahead for MoonKnight. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Script Department. Today I'm joined by Brad as we try and tell the difference between reality and dreams and look at Marvel's latest quasi-British accented offering, MoonKnight. But before we get going, don't forget to pop over to our website, thescriptdepartment.net, and check out what our global network of screenwriters are up to. And feel free to go back, check out our other bits and bobs, like, share, subscribe, etc., etc. So, Brad, the English is the English accent just a figment of Oscar Isaac's sleep-deprived imagination, or does MoonKnight rise to the day, fresh and ready to beat up some mummies? What do you reckon?
I quite liked it. I was
I
excited.
did.
I'd seen like the weird accent on the trailers, and it started after the horrible Ethan Hawke putting his shards of glass in his shoes. It started, and it felt like a little bit like the Mummy,
Yeah.
the original Brendan Fraser Mummy, and I was like, I forgot about this feeling. I was like, oh my god, this could be something really good.
Oh, that feeling, that's lush, man.
It is. I think it is. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Like, I didn't know what to expect, but I think it's going to be really good. He plays it really, really well. I don't dislike the accent. Like, it's a bit weird, but
I think they did some unfortunate stuff in the trailers, because there is that bit in the trailer that's like, I can't tell the difference between reality and dreams, and it's like, Christ, man, what are you doing? But I agree with you. I think it blends in. It's moments of Dick Van Dyke in there, but it is kind of the elephant in the room, so we just get that out of the way first. But it is, I'm with you. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, I think he studied the syntax and everything. It's his job to, so it should do. But he's studied that syntax, and you really feel for the guy.
Yeah.
It's not like an obstacle. Like, he's like a real misfit.
And it's not.
I don't know. You feel for that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's nice to have kind of that fully realized character as well. It's not like it feels as though the Marvel stuff is getting in the way of his life. And I kind of love that. I kind of love the fact that Stephen is just he's just this guy. He's just trying to live his life, and he's got to have there was that bit he said about if I'm ever going to have a girlfriend, I need to get rid of these restraints in the bed because that's a red flag or something like that. It was like, that's just so great, so well, so well written and so well delivered. Yeah, I'm totally with you. It was fun. It was a really fun thing, and you know what? It feels like a pilot in the way that the other MCU Disney Plus stuff hasn't, because everything else, to my knowledge, up to this point, so we've had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we've had Loki, we've had WandaVision, we've had Hawkeye. So we've known all the characters going into these things beforehand. This is the first one, I think, where we're being introduced to a whole new thing. That's right, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And it feels like they're aware of that, and they're kind of going, oh, well, we need to approach this like a pilot. We need to approach this as, we need to sell you on this world and kind of have that. I really enjoyed the fact that it felt like a pilot.
Yeah, it stands alone, like, really well without any of the MCU at all. Like, it almost doesn't need any of it. I'm sure there'll be quite a bit of crossing over if we know what to expect from MCU, particularly in TV shows at the moment. It felt like there was a mystery for us to solve in it immediately. Like, so there's the weird Ethan Hawke like ritual at the start, and then before we do get to the museum, we get the him waking up and dismantling. Immediately, you understand that that's a sleepwalking capture device. You know, he's got sand around the bed. He's got the chain on. He's got a strip of tape on the door. Like, you're like, oh, this guy's
I get it. Yeah,
having some problems. I get it, and you immediately understand. And even the music all the way through it, like most of the commercial tracks are about waking up.
Yeah.
So I can't remember the Rat Pack one. Every Day I Wake Up, and then you've got Wake Me Up by Wham. And it's all about him like coming in and out of like his own consciousness, or the consciousness that we know. So for me, the most clever part of it is that we're seeing it through Stephen's perspective.
Yeah.
for a long time. Like, we don't know what's going on, and neither does he.
Yeah.
So when he blacks out, we black out, and we don't know. And
Well,
it
yeah,
just comes back around, and people are,
we only get the flash of Mark's perspective right at the end there, I think, isn't it? It's where the mummy, the toilet roll comes around him and takes over his body. He gets into the costume. You know, I think that's the only time we get that perspective, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's, and I think it was designed that way. I think it was like, okay, we're going to do this like a really big long reveal of this is an awesome thing.
Yeah,
and he does look awesome when he gets the toilet roll all over him. There's something a bit Batman-esque about him.
Yeah,
you know, he'd got that thing on the floor and he was pounding it with his fists. Like, that's that's the Batman. That's what he does. Like, it made sense, and I was like, okay, like he's pretty nails, this guy. Like, he doesn't mind taking a few licks, and he doesn't mind dishing it out.
Yeah.
You know, he's obviously super powered in a way because there's something magic going on, as we can see, but he seems to use brute force as his main weapon.
Yeah, for sure. I think I love that. It's that kind of thing of that reveal, though. I mean, as we're talking about it, I did find on a couple of occasions there, I think because the story and the character was so compelling, it was so interesting, I did find myself a little eye-rolly at some of the Marvel things. And a couple of bits of CGI in there that were just really, really naff. There was the logs rolling off the hill. They looked like they were in a different frame rate. It was really weird. It was really, really strange. And then the kind of the moon, the toilet roll and everything. It kind of I don't know. I like it. I like the look of it. But I think because it was so compelling and it was so grounded, for so much of it, I think I almost would have preferred Oscar Isaac to stand up afterwards, and there's something different in him, and you can see it on his face, and he's stand up, he's covered in blood, and he looks in the camera, and then maybe then the hood comes up or something. I don't know, just something a little bit more subtle in that. But I think that I don't know what because it kind of feels more Defenders-y in tone to me. It feels like those Netflix shows. Did you get that?
I think a little bit, because it's just not necessarily isolated on like Harlem or Hell's Kitchen or where they were all set.
Yeah,
but it is kind of isolated on him. Do you know what I mean? Like, so most of his life's in the gift shop between his flat, which is far too expensive for a gift shop worker.
100%. Yeah.
He's got a massive flat in Covent Garden.
Yeah,
there's thousands a month.
I reckon that they're kind of sat there going, it's like the Friends thing. It's like, well, it's rent control, or it's like, but it's only studio apartment. You know, it's like it's beautiful.
Yeah, that does make sense to me. But I think it, and then he goes to, was it the Alps somewhere? He just wakes up in the Alps, and he's got that broken jaw. That is, oh god! Ghastly, I was like, oh my god! And then and what does he say when it sort of restructures itself? And he goes, oh, that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. Like, what's happened there?
It was weird.
Yeah, it was weird, Stephen.
So it was very weird. But I think it's sort of like focusing. I think part of it's the characterization of Stephen, how they've done that. I'm starting to get the impression we won't get that much of him for the rest of the season, because we've got Mark, and from all of the chatter that's been online, there's another couple of characters that are inside of him.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's spoilers ahead, but that's been spoken, because the comics are out there. That's been spoken about a lot,
right? Okay.
That he has a number of personalities, and I don't know. I think if we're going to get MoonKnight, it's going to probably be more of the Mark character. Apparently, there's a cabbie inside of him.
There's a cabbie, well. Isn't there? I mean, that lives inside of him. There's a cabbie in all of us, isn't there? You know, I mean, there's deep down, aren't we all just cabbies trying to?
So I think there's a fair chance we might get the first few episodes are showing us some of the personalities inside of him. So we've got all this characterization for Stephen, and you really sort of like feel drawn into his story. We're on the same side as Stephen throughout the whole thing. We're always placed on the side of Stephen, even when the Moon Knight, who's the title character of the show, who's obviously attached to the Mark personality, he's trying to get out. you're sort of like, oh no, what about Stephen?
Yeah, exactly.
What about poor Stephen? And it's brilliant. It's really good. It's a really interesting experience, sort of going on that ride through it from the wrong side of MoonKnight.
For sure.
I don't know how much longer they'll carry that on for.
I would see.
It's like I said.
Yeah, I wonder because we've now got MoonKnight. I wonder if it depends on how they want to tell that story, because the thing that popped into my head immediately was, I wonder if we now go back and see Mark's side of it. Maybe now the second episode actually doesn't put us much further forward in the story, but we get Mark's point of view, and we learn what Mark's been doing, why he needs the scarab, and all this, that, and the other. So you kind of get these two sides folded together. And then when perhaps you only get to see, so you get Mark kind of going, oh God, the idiot's coming back. And you go, and you wake up again. You go,
right.
Oh, and I'm back again. Oh, okay, right. I'm going to, kill you, man. And so you literally see the exact mirror image maybe of what Stephen did. I don't know. I think that would be a really interesting way of exploring that to get those dual personalities.
Well, I think the voices in the head are also, there's something that's another mystery to us. Like there's the giant mummy guy who's in the head all the time saying, I'll kill if he gives up the scarab Mark, I'll kill both of you.
Yeah.
And he's talking to the other guy inside of his body, and he can't. It's
does that imply that they might be separate entities then? If he's saying I'll kill you, or it could just be a Marvel quip, to be fair. But maybe does that imply that they can be separated, and maybe they've been put together in some way or another? I don't know.
I got the impression they're inside of him. They're inside of the body of Mark / Stephen / whoever it is.
So it's kind of figments
one body, and there's the scene where he finds the phone, and he's obviously been Mark for a long time prior to that, because he's got a whole life and he's got all these mysteries that are happening around him that Stephen doesn't know anything about. And it's quite interesting straight away, because you're like, oh, there's going to be some depth to this. I think it's quite popcorny, actiony at times, but you probably still want to pay attention because you might miss a few things.
Yeah. It seems pretty layered. I know that Oscar Isaac's main draw to it was the discussion of mental health and looking at kind of Stephen as with the I can't remember the exact term. I should have written that down really, but the kind of the separate personalities existing within. But I'm getting Split vibes. Did you see Split with James McAvoy?
Yes.
I kind of get that. I kind of get those vibes. You've got perhaps are these other characters, these other personalities emerging and evolving to protect Stephen in some way or another, and then the Mark character, the Mark personality's kind of gone like, well, okay, I might as well be a mercenary on the side, I guess. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how it goes, because I know the comics. From what I've read, I'm not familiar with them in any kind of depth, but I know that they're a bit of a mess in terms of they've been rebooted and rebranded again and again and again and again and again. So there's a huge amount of scope and character to draw on from a history like that.
Well, I think it's interesting what you're saying about the personalities coming to help Stephen, or maybe to help the whole. When they're in a predicament, like there's the times that he blacks out and he wakes up and he's killed everyone, and it's obviously Mark / MoonKnight has come through and done that. But there's also the weird scene where the tour guide says, "We on for steak still?" And he's like, "What? Yeah, did I ask you out?" And she's like, "Oh, it's really funny." And at some point, one of his personalities has asked her out for a date. And it's like, so that it's not just helping in like in violent ways. Like they got him a date with I can't remember her name.
I can't remember her name,
but the tour guide. I felt really sorry for him when he turned up on the wrong day.
What do you mean?
And he played that really well. He was
what do you mean? It's Sunday. It's Thursday today.
I mean, you kind of feel him unraveling. You can feel no pun intended with the mummy things, but you feel him unraveling. And he's you're on that. It's quite an emotional journey, it's particularly for such a short. It's like 45 minutes.
Yeah,
and the scene where because it's already been said that he's a vegan, and she stands him up, and he tears up and orders a steak.
Yeah,
and he doesn't know how to eat it because he doesn't eat meat.
I mean,
goes,
that for me was
it.
the least believable part of the whole thing. Was that not that he ordered it as a vegan, not that it wasn't the toilet paper absorbing him, not the multiple personalities. It's the fact that a restaurant known for their steak would recommend a well done steak. No, unbelievable. Would not happen. Would not happen.
Maybe it's because they didn't like him. He was like, "You don't know what you're doing. You can have a well done."
We're going to ruin this beautiful cut of meat just to spite you, sir. Going to hate it.
The best one, the best cut.
Oh man, no, I think Oscar Isaac, he does such a great job of embodying that kind of mild mannered thing, and I think it plays on the fact that we know him as being quite a suave, it's the Han Solo character, the kind of type character from the Star Wars stuff, and as Poe, and then and other things he's done. He's a very cool guy. He's a very, very cool guy, and so I think it does somewhat play on that when you see him doing this mild mannered thing, and then we see Mark in the mirror, and you go, there's Oscar Isaac. I understand, and it's quite comforting. I think in that moment you go, there's that guy.
Yeah, I think it's the fact we're going to get multiple versions of Oscar Isaac's just brilliant. It's really clever because the more the better. Like it's a really interesting concept for him to get stuck into, and it'll be interesting for us to watch what he does with it. And it's great that they've paired him with someone like Ethan Hawke as the antagonist. I mean, he's pretty chilling. He really is pretty chilling in it. Like with his little scale tattoo on his arm, and he's like judging, and it judges people whether they've had a good life or bad life, or will have a good life or bad life, and then he kills them.
Terrifying, really, really. And I think it's the he has that. It's the knowledge that he is right, sort of thing, isn't it? It's the righteous bad guy, and the unshakable belief that he's doing the right thing. And I think that's what makes that sort of character so frightening, is that it's not the kind of climbing the walls, it's not the chewing the scenery, it's not any of that. It's just no, I'm right about this, and I believe that so strongly that you will not stand in my way, and I will apologize to you. I think that's so frightening when you get a villain that apologizes and says, I don't want to do this, but I have to. There's something very chilling about that, and you're right. But then that's a great bit of writing, isn't it? In that first sequence there with the glass and everything, you kind of know a lot about that character straight away, and the kind of the religious zealotry of it. And the kind of fundamental sort of element of that, he's walking on broken glass every day. There is, for his beliefs, we know now that he's someone to be threatening. He's someone to be watched.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've used the word characterization about 5,000 times already now. But the for him, it's some of it's quite Route One, but some of it isn't. Like they could have really gone expositional on. He's a cult guy. Everyone crowd round. We're part of the cult. And, they didn't. They just kind of roll into it. And there's some mystery about the scarab, the golden scarab that they're trying to get off him. He doesn't quite know he doesn't seem to quite know what Stephen and Mark, what they are.
Yeah.
Because at one point in London, he sort of says, the voice is in your head. And I was like, oh, he knows exactly who he is. And then he does the scales, and you don't see what happens, but he says there's chaos in you, and he runs away. And I was like, oh no, he doesn't know it. That was just his sales pitch about your own consciousness or something.
His sales pitch,
his sales pitch for Dead or Not, and it was it was great. Nobody seems to know what's going on. The protagonist, the antagonist, the audience, but you don't care.
No.
It's a ride that you're on. You're going to find out at some point, if not next episode. At least a bit of the information, and I think they've structured it well for you to know that's coming, so you don't give up on it. Like I think they took quite a lot of risks with WandaVision, which everyone stuck with it because they were like, "What is this?" Like episode 1 and 2, very little of what it became, very very little, like 1 or 2 little glimmers. And for them to release that weekly. They could have lost
really
people,
brave.
But they knew it would work, and they knew what they were offering people, and people stuck with it. And with this, it's less of a risk, but they are releasing it weekly,
Hmm.
and they've kept a lot of mystery.
Yeah.
But they've structured it in such a way you're going to get it.
For sure. I think it is
Yeah.
it is that thing with WandaVision. I think they could take further risks because we already know those characters, and there's a mystery going into it of like, oh, how is Vision here, because he was killed off and whatnot. So there are a few further risks that maybe they could take there. But with this, I applaud them for staying the course in terms of just making a bit of TV and introducing a new character. I said it earlier on, but it feels like a pilot, and it feels like a new thing. And I think so often with Marvel, you don't always get new things. We have a lot of turnover. We have a lot of the same ground trodden and things like that. We've done a little bit of this before with the Hulk, and we've done the kind of multiple personalities and kind of sharing the body and things like that. I haven't had a little bit of that, but it feels quite fresh, I think. And I think the reason it feels so fresh is because it feels so disconnected from everything else going on. And I admire the restraint of the writers to not go in and have Stephen in the lobby kind of saying, yes, when I was blipped, this happened, and things like that. I'm only in this flat because I blipped, or whatever it might be, which would have been fine, I think, and it would have been. I don't think it would have been too distracting, but I really admire the fact they didn't do that, and they're letting this kind of stand on its own 2 feet. I like that a lot.
Yeah, they've seemed to have done that in pretty much anything. Like even in, I think it was Jessica Jones and Luke Cage was in it, and they were talking about the Green Guy.
Yeah.
And the event and things like that. I mean, that Daredevil didn't start too long after the first Avengers, so it kind of made sense they did it. But they've carried on, they carried on doing it. I mean, stuff like Winter Soldier and Falcon and Winter Soldier, you can't not do it because
and
it's
it would
a continuation of the same story.
Yeah, it would be wrong. It would be wrong to ignore that stuff. But with something like this, with introducing new characters into this world and things like that. I mean, they did it with the Eternals. They referenced the Avengers directly. They did it with Shang-Chi. Not too much. That did sort of feel as though it could breathe on its own and it could have its own thing. But at the same time, they did then have a big old post-credit sequence with Captain Marvel and a non-Hulk Ruffalo, and Ruffalo, and they it did kind of allow it to breathe, but it was still there. It was still, and I'm pretty sure they did name drop the blip or Thanos or something like that in there. But this, for a pilot series in the MCU to have no reference to anything else, thank you, Marvel. Great stuff. Like
I mean, they put the money in it as well. I mean, Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaacs. I mean, come on, like,
whoa, yeah,
those guys are not going to be cheap.
No,
they're like solid, established actors from other. They're not necessarily always. Well, I guess Isaac's getting more known as a sci-fi guy, but they're not necessarily from this world. If you look at their IMDb history, it's sort of like they're just solid actors, and they're like, "Come on, let's make a Marvel TV show."
For Ethan Hawke in particular, I think, because Oscar Isaacs has had his experiences with Star Wars, and Disney, and things like that. So I get that. I understood Oscar Isaacs going into this, but Ethan Hawke did come out of the blue. I did sit there when he was announced and kind of go, "Oh, really? Okay, that's cool. I'm into that. Good for you, man."
Yeah, I think that there's been some genius in the casting in this. I mean, we're going to see a new range from Oscar Isaac
for sure,
and I think it's going to be it's quite a new type of character for Hawke to play as well. I think we're going to get some interesting stuff happen in the next few weeks. I think
for sure it'll be interesting to see in having just applauded the fact that the MCU showed a bit of restraint and not done that. It will be interesting to see how the MCU handles ancient Egyptian culture and the kind of the way that they look at that sort of stuff, because obviously with Thor, we've got the kind of Norse stuff going on there. We've had moments of other religious elements in there as well. Shang-Chi comes with that kind of side of things as well. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of angle they take here, whether they're going to go down the route of all of this is real and they're just another group of aliens like the Asgardians, or if it's going to be, some of it's magic, some of it's not, and things like that. I wonder if they will address it. It'll be interesting to see what they choose to do there.
Yeah, I think certain alarm bells went off for me when there was a scarab and there was, a mummy. I think it's got an ankh on it or something, and there's a certain level of appropriation that TV shows can take over things, and I know ancient Egyptian culture has been used a number of times, but we're in a different time to Brendan Fraser's Mummy now. It is very different time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they need to be careful with it. I'm hoping they will have been. I don't think Disney are a silly company when it comes to things like culture and even like IP and things like that. They seem really...
They've been caught out before, I think, haven't they? I think they've probably learned those lessons pretty hard.
Exactly. I mean, it's been... I know there are a few certain cases at the moment in California with Disney and the teaching homosexuality in school and stuff, and it's just everyone's got dragged into that, and it's like I think politicians over movie studios should be commenting on things like this, but it's just they've had a few cases that will make them really hot on stuff like this. It's always going to happen a little bit, but I think when it's a show that they've put a lot of money into it and they've produced it over a long period of time, they're going to have a lot of checks and stuff like that on it. And I don't know. I would like them to see, like to not see them, besmirch Egyptian history, historical events and history. That would be nice not to happen.
It would, it would.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It is, but will they be able to? I mean, is there any version of this where you can assume another culture's religious deities and make them Marvel superheroes and it not be appropriation? I don't know, but I know that they have. There was a moment in there that I think was deliberately put in there to kind of answer this question, and it's when Stephen is standing and he corrects the poster. And he says, "Oh, actually, I think you'll find there are more like 7 of these on here, even though you've only got 5, or something like that." I love doing his voice. I hope it's not annoying for everyone, but I can't resist it.
You did a pretty good job of it.
I appreciate that. Thanks. And I think that's probably. It's probably there to show the character has an interest. And you look at his flat, there's kind of artifacts and pyramids and things like that in the fish tank and whatnot. There's bits and bobs all over the place, and it shows that he has a legitimate interest and a legitimate knowledge of that culture and whatnot. But I suspect that was thrown in there to kind of go, we know, and we're going to be careful about this. We're going to be sensitive about this. But what's the definition of careful or sensitive when you're dressing a guy up in toilet roll, calling him MoonKnight, and having him listen to a mummified thing in his head? Don't know really. But I think apart from anything else, I think it felt well structured. It felt really well structured. I think it really hung together nicely. I would have liked them to be a little bit braver, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here because I think I like how brave they were. They didn't spoon feed the audience, as we've said. They gave us they trust the audience to follow it. But I really would have enjoyed it if they had jumped in. The first shot after the Marvel kind of titles was Stephen waking up in the Alps going, "What's going on?" And then you kind of have all of that chase. That's the first thing that happens. And then he wakes up in his bed afterwards, kind of go, "Oh, it must have been a dream." And then kind of on and on it goes. And then we have those bits that were at the beginning. And you have that kind of long run of sort of, I don't know, slightly more mundane things with little clues here and there. And you almost trick the audience into thinking it was a dream as well. You almost get it. And then Ethan Hawke turns up or something like that. I don't know, but that's just me being nitpicky. It doesn't need it, but
I think that they've done some interesting things with the structure. They could have definitely put that first, and that would have been like the big
boom,
smash,
yeah,
boom, we're in. Look,
yeah.
he's killing people, but he doesn't know he's doing it, and it could have been a great opening. I think it almost felt like not precisely, but it felt like the entire episode could have been one act, long one act, but it could have been one act.
Yeah.
So it was almost like, there was an inciting incident. There was a number of inciting incidents, but when you got through that and you started to learn a little bit more about the character, he becomes MoonKnight, and you're about to go into, about to break into two, and then the episode ends.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, it could have been a first act, and it's not. It wouldn't be, irregular for a TV show to work in that way, where they spread out the first 3 or 4 shows as acts, because it is a greater story.
Yeah,
and you probably could watch them end to end, like a lot of the newer Marvel stuff you could watch end to end.
Yeah,
the TV shows in particular. I think the earlier stuff, like the Netflix stuff, they felt very episodic and almost
though they
procedural
did
in a way, that she was an investigator and he was you're going to punch people's heads in Luke Cage. They all had their own jobs. But
they did. They did. They did have their own jobs.
And episodic.
Yeah,
that was it. Punch people's heads.
Yeah.
But they, there was something very procedural and episodic, whereas this feels like it's very, very cinematic.
Yeah.
Like, it's beautiful as well. It's really lovely how they've shot it. It feels like you could watch this in a cinema. It's got that depth and that, we're in the British Museum, we're in the Alps, it's a huge show.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff doesn't even have to be expensive these days. The Alps didn't necessarily have to be the Alps. That could have been somewhere else in Europe that was cheaper to film, and it was, there are a number of ways of doing that, but it looks big and it looks cinematic, like a big old movie.
It's really interesting you say that, because the British Museum and the London shots were shot in Budapest. They weren't shot in London. They didn't spend a single day of the shoot in the UK. The whole thing was in
he comes out though, and he's in Covent. There's one bit where he's in Covent Garden, surely.
Nope.
Because you can see one of the theatres in the back.
Budapest, mate. It's mad. Oh, it's mad. Like,
I can't believe they did that.
It does. I know. I went to Budapest a couple of years ago, and I didn't register it. It was only after I watched an interview with them. It was one of the Radio 1 Ali Plum ones, I think, and he's kind of sat there going like, it's a great interview actually. It's well worth a look, because you get a real insight into his kind of mindset going into this and stuff. But yeah, no, Budapest, quite interesting.
Nice. I didn't know that. That's good. I'm gonna rewatch it. I want to rewatch it and find out. I want to see Budapest in that show.
Yeah, find the ruin bars in there, man. Go get that. I mean, yeah, I loved it. I think you're right. It was a first act, and I think it feels like the first act of a much bigger story. And I got to the end of it and kind of went, yeah, ready for the next bit now. I wasn't fully satisfied by it in a way that you wouldn't be able to watch the first half hour of a film and go, yeah, I'm done with that, because of course you can't. It felt like the first act, and I'm excited for where it's going to go next, and I hope they continue to be brave, because it's interesting. It's good.
Yeah, I'm there for this. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to next week when we get another installment. I think they're not going to have laid out what they have as far as money and and actors and the scale of this thing. They're not going to lay that out without a damn good plan ahead of them. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next.
For sure. Nice one. Thanks, Brad. That was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you disagree, agree with us, then feel free to put your comments down below and let us know what you think, mate. And otherwise, I think the only thing left to say is please like, share, and subscribe, and check us out over at thescriptdepartment.net. And otherwise, I think laters, Gators.